Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts and the letters of the Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon, Hebrews and the book of James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, Jude and Revelation.
Hello, I'm glad you're watching today. Today we'll talk about the Last Supper. That's the last meal that Jesus shared with his disciples before Easter. So we're going to read the Bible story that's found in Luke 22, verses 14 through 20 on the board back there. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover." "Where do you want us to prepare it?" they asked. He replied, "As you enter the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large upper room all furnished. Make preparations there." They left and found things just as Jesus had told them, so they prepared the Passover. When the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table. He said to them, "I've eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer, for I tell you, I will not eat it again until I find fulfillment in the kingdom of God." After taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among you, for I tell you, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." And he took bread, gave thanks and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you." So Jesus had a Last Supper with his disciples. And so you know a little bit about Passover. Passover is a Jewish celebration that's still held today, and it's usually right before Easter. It's a special meal, and it reminds the Jews of how God spared the Israelites in Egypt when the oldest son in each Egyptian family was killed. At that time, the blood of a lamb was sprinkled on each Israelite's door, and God passed over them. Today, Christians remember Jesus' death for us by celebrating communion. It's also called the Last Supper. The cup of grape juice reminds us of the blood Jesus shed on the cross for us. The bread reminds us how much Jesus suffered as his body was broken there. Jesus taught his disciples many things that night. Jesus commanded his followers to love each other, just as he loved them. So we'll look at what's in our Wonder Box. Something rattling around. And it's a little communion cup. In our church, the communion cup is usually like this, and it's usually the first Sunday of every month. And it's our time to think of Jesus and remember how he died for us and saved us. And we pass around a basket that'll have bread or crackers in it, And that represents Jesus' body that was broken on the cross to save us. So, our Bible verse is, "Do this in remembrance of me." Luke 22, verse 19, what we just read about. And so there's the cup and there's the bread, just like they shared. And here's another picture that an artist painted, what that artist thought it might have looked like. Jesus holding up the cup and Jesus' disciples, and they look like they're wondering, what is Jesus talking about? He's talking about the last time he can eat with them. So they just couldn't figure out what was going on. And our faith word is remember. And it's to think about and not forget our faith. Remember. So, do you ever wonder, what do you think it'd be like to share a meal with Jesus? So, do you have any questions about communion? You can ask one of your teachers or ask your mom or dad or someone that could explain it to you. So after a person is baptized, then they can celebrate communion and remember Jesus. So they're baptized, and because they've been baptized, they're a follower of Jesus, and then they can share communion with the rest of the church. And all of us that are sharing communion, we're remembering Jesus. So you can think about a table blessing that you might want to have. Families can usually pray together, just like Jesus did with his disciples at their last meal together. And so what do you think we could ask God for? Ask him to help our family, our friends, ourselves, our homes, our church. We can pray for whatever is on our mind, whatever worries us, because God can help us with our worries. We can pray for healing and love and peace in the world. So, we have communion and we remember Jesus. And if you got a paper today, this shows some silly things that people way back then wouldn't have had. So you can try and find them. And on the back, it has 3 questions you could have asked Jesus if you had been there at the Last Supper. And then there's also a communion cup and bread on a plate so that we remember Jesus. So thank you for listening today.